What's up, guys, gals, non-binary pals? We are back at the desk view this time because the green screen was a lot of work and I don't know how to maximize how funny it can be. So we're gonna go back to the green screen later when I can find out if I can be funny with it. That being said, this video does contain spoilers for Trolls 2. If you haven't seen Trolls 2, go watch it. It is a good movie. Easy 8 out of 10, maybe a 9. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy it. I was gonna like this movie no matter what. Trolls 1 was a movie that if I had watched it when it first came out, I was gonna like it no matter what, because it covers up 2/3 of the Cody Hansel Venn diagram. Those 3 segments being musicals, schmaltzy stuff, and daddy issues. And no film is perfect. This film doesn't really have daddy issues. It's got schmaltzy and it's got musicals. It doesn't really have daddy issues. Yeah. This movie is about Poppy and her friends traveling across the multiple troll kingdoms to try and prevent Queen Barb, the Queen of Rock, from taking the strings from each different part of the world, of each genre of music, and using that to destroy all other genres of music and making rock the one and only, uniting the whole world under rock and roll. Which, hey, maybe you're tunnel visioning a little bit hard on this whole rock and roll thing. Maybe don't do that. What do they get to do with this simple of a plot? A lot, actually. They get to do a ton with this plot. They squeeze in a lot of different things and a lot of different parallels that we really kind of need in this day and age. And I'm surprised I'm saying that for Trolls 2. But we'll get to that later. First, World Tour makes a very important and a very distinct difference in the animation of this film compared to the animation of the first film, and that is its near 100% complete removal of motion blur. There is virtually no motion blur in this film, and it is, spicy, so nice. Everything has this sharp, distinct edge to it. Every movement feels purposeful. Everything has this poppiness to it that comes together in a way that shouldn't look so good without motion blur. But because of how they worked around it and how they move everything in the film, it looks fantastic. Everything from like a character flipping out a pick in their hand. They went through and they moved everything frame by frame, and they took out the frames that they didn't need to sell that motion. And it makes it just so shoop, quick and poppy and nice. I'm gonna say poppy a lot in this, I know that. I'm bad with words. There's another part where this character is drumming around like a madman. At one point, he slaps his face against the drums and just keeps drumming away. And you see his drumsticks flopping around like wet noodles, but every time they connect with a drum, they go straight again. Sells the sound of a hard slap or pop against a drum or a cymbal. There's a scene apparently, thanks to Twitter, I know this, where Poppy runs for this huge high five with Branch, and whenever she does, it looks like she's moving 20, 30 feet, but no, she moved like 5 feet, maybe that in scale, but because of the effects and the motion work and the camera work around it, it feels like she ran half a mile for that high five, whenever all she did was like, take like 2 steps worth of movement. It's so cool what they pull off, these visual mind trickeries that they do with just the simplest little tricks of camera movement and particle and special effects. It's truly something great. It's like Spider-Verse level cool. There's that scene in Spider-Verse where they're hanging up around the ceiling to hide from the roommate, and whenever you see the behind the scenes of it, Spider-Ham's neck is like 6 feet long. Okay, cool. I never had to know that, but now that I know that, that's super dope. They managed to trick everybody like that. So cool, that kind of stuff. I love that stuff from behind the scenes. Another point of anime, I'm gonna rant about the animation a lot. There's a scene where there's this little penny whistle, and as it's talking, it's moving at like 12 frames per second, a third or a fourth of the frame rate of the other characters. But then Poppy gives it this little construction hat. But the hat is following Poppy's rules of animation, moving at the full frame rate, 30 or 60 frames per second. So whenever this character moves, it's still moving at that frame rate, but the hat is still moving at the original frame rate. So whenever the character like pops into a position with like no ease in or ease out, the hat still follows the physics of the ease in and ease out of all the movements. It's so cool. Probably my favorite movement in the entire film comes from the techno trolls at the very beginning. You see all of this in the trailer, where again, no motion blur, but whenever they move quickly across the screen, there's after images and like light trails of them showing that, yeah, they zoop across the screen, but that's just either particle effects or hand drawn over. They do it again where there's this what looks like a slow motion jump, even though they're underwater, of a character. And whenever this character is moving, on the downbeat, she's moving slowly. But on the upbeat, it pops her to the next position. And then again on the downbeat, she's moving slowly. And it's, oh, I'll have it all up on screen. It just looks so, so cool. I've mentioned this before, but this film's camera work is fantastic. The first movie did not go as deep with the camera work. It was good camera work. It sold me that it was there. It did a good job of being a camera in an animated film, but this film took it up to a whole nother level. There's a scene where Poppy is in front of like burning embers and it's zoomed in hyper sharp on her face, and you can see this beautiful bokeh effect behind her, and it's like, wow, what a shallow and nice depth of field. And then it does a rack zoom where she's now out of focus and you can see the little detailed embers that are just like extremely tiny, but they were so big and such a nice bokeh effect behind her that I think during the rack zoom, maybe they deleted or hid some of those mid-zoom, like mid-transition. So the bokeh effect would still look really good behind her and then change into something different as the shot progressed to zoom in on the other characters and focus on them. I can't confirm that, but it looks so good. That being said, if you're watching this and you worked in the film, hey, can you tell me if that's what they did? Because I would really like to know, and I'd be really happy to know that I got a really good guess in. So that would be great. The lighting in this film is phenomenal. There is a scene that I believe in the first film, if they would have used this same type of lighting, it would have just been like a feel light on each character that each character would have kind of been hit by. Instead, they like parent the lights, almost masking them to this character, saying, hey, light, this is the only thing you're allowed to hit is this character, this object in this scene. And they did that with multiple characters in the same shot. And it looks phenomenal. It's so stylish and nice. This whole movie is stylish and nice. Why is Trolls 2 this good? I don't understand. This movie is hilarious. It's a funny movie. I busted out laughing multiple times, both at just the written dialogue and how snappy some of the vocal jokes are, and with some of those visual jokes. So many of them both take their time and sell themselves multiple times throughout the film, following the rules of three. One very specific one is the cowboy who dies in the middle of a song. Somehow that third part paid off at the very end of the movie in the rule of threes. Well done. Good job keeping that in. Then you have those blink and you'll miss it visual jokes. After the intro song with Tiny Diamond and Guy Diamond walks up, turns around, pops himself down, and if you weren't looking at the right part of the screen or you blinked during it, you'd miss his funny little butt jiggle. Them cheeks just bloop, pop. Guy Diamond be thick. And they want you to know it, but they're gonna make the joke go by fast enough to where maybe the kids won't notice it. The plot and the premise of the first movie was basically the Bergens eat trolls because they're depressed, because they don't have music, or happiness to make them happy. So they get happiness. I'm sure there was a deeper connection to some parallel in that movie, but I don't remember it. So there you go. This movie decides to use different genres of music as allegories for racism. Okay, DreamWorks. Okay, Trolls 2. Let's talk about that. This isn't the first, and it won't be the last kids film to try to tackle this topic. Most recently, I think the film that tried to do it was Zootopia. And Zootopia kind of muddied what it was trying to say about racism by having the prey and predators not being direct parallels to majorities and minorities. The message got a little muddied whenever the conflict of the film reached its head. But it never tied them directly to a parallel in real life. We didn't get anything like that. That movie did a poor job in that regard. But I think at the end of the day, when you're just a kid and you're not looking too deeply into it, it'll be fine. Now, that being said, I think Trolls 2 does that same thing much better. Instead, Trolls 2 draws all the different genres of music to a different race, especially whenever you consider the casting behind it. The country, the pop, the rock trolls are all played primarily by white actors. The hip-hop and funk trolls are played by African and African-American actors. The K-pop trolls are played by a real K-pop group, Red Velvet. The yodeler trolls, and one of them is played by Flula Borg, a German producer and actor. And they use that casting accordingly. The most important and obvious example of using this setup probably comes from how the strings were taken and the story behind that and how it's presented throughout the film. In the beginning of the film, we are told by King Peppy that at one point, all the music was together. All 6 strings were together and all genres of music were together and they lived together. But eventually, other trolls got intolerant of other trolls' music. Pop, rock, funk, all of them started to dislike each other, so on and so forth. Until all the elders decided that we need to take our strings with our respective peoples and go our separate ways. That's how the 6 troll nations were formed. That's King Peppy's point of view. That's how King Peppy tells the story. The pop trolls. Later on in the film, it's actually revealed by the African and African American actors, the hip hop trolls, that the pop trolls wanted all types of music for themselves. They would copy and sample those types of music and not give credit to the original creators of the music. They rewrote history in the way that made them look best. That's something that happens all the time, has happened in the past, and will continue to happen. The winners rewrite history. And as a white man in modern society, history tends to be kind to us. That's a lesson that's hard to get through to kids in a way that doesn't disrespect anyone, doesn't attack anyone specifically, while still saying this group of people had control over this situation, rewrote history in their favor. Okay, got you. Kids aren't going to see the parallel that all the actors for each of these are white people or African-American people, Koreans. They're not going to see that connection. I still think this film kind of muddies the water a little bit because of its setting. These are fantastical, vibrant caricatures whose biggest differences are some slight adjustments to their lower bodies, and the only big difference are the giraffe trolls. Those are the ones that look the least like the other trolls. So that can kind of muddy the water, but I think the music tie is strong enough to push it along. At least sell it much better than Zootopia did. At the end of the day, this movie is fantastic. It's got a really good message. It's got fantastic animation and visuals. It's such an overload. And I have to give a shout out to the animators and the creators who have worked on this film. I've been seeing behind the scenes stuff all over Twitter. Any of it that I find, I've probably put up in this video in one regard or another as it works with the examples that I wrote out, I will also be linking direct links to that in my description below straight to the Twitter of whoever posted that I found. And if you're watching this video and you worked on the movie, please send me an example of something that you worked on, a shot that you did, your behind the scenes, anything that you can send me without breaking any kind of rules. Please, I want to share it. Just tweet it at me and I'll retweet it or something. I want to boost you all as much as possible. The footwork people, the animators, the writers, the people whose names don't get seen as much. That being said, I love how this movie did the credits, because the credits force you to see at least maybe like the animation supervisor or directors or music people. All of that information is up there during the credits, and it forces you to see at least some of the higher ups in that form, in that respective slice of making a film. Please go watch it if you haven't, and really pay attention to the details. This has been Cody Hansel. Thank you for watching my video. Follow me on Twitch. I stream every week. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Join my Discord, where I talk about this kind of stuff, as well as just get people together to play Smash Brothers and junk. Yeah, that's it. That's all for the video. I don't have an outro for this. What is an outro?